All right. Hello, hello.
Yes, it is so nice to meet you. Let me turn my volume up a little bit. There we go.
Wonderful. I was trying to decide. I'm a sign language interpreter by trade, and I want this to be accessible. And so I was trying to decide if I wanted to sign during it, but I think I'll add the captions later. So
Probably be good. Yeah, whatever you want to do.
I'll do that. Um, we discovered your YouTube channel the other day, my husband and I, and
Okay. So you
so
probably what you so it's here's what's funny. I don't have a YouTube channel, but a
okay.
lot of people think that that's my channel because there's been so many videos. That's
Oh,
a podcast I recently did out in Los Angeles.
okay. All
But
right.
a
That makes
YouTube channel might happen in the future.
That would be I mean, it would be good.
Yeah.
What we saw that and we started watching everything we could about you because my husband is very intrigued in like the comedy world and the Eastman. You see Eastman over here, then over there.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can tell that's a meet and greet photo, and
Yes.
I
Yeah.
thought that looked like Kevin Eastman, but I
Yeah. Yeah.
wasn't sure.
Yeah. So I didn't even realize there were Comic Cons or anything like that until I married him. And
Yeah,
and I've been so fascinated by that. I was like, oh my God, these people just sit out here
it
and let you talk to
it
them.
has blown up the past decade because so when I started doing this, I started as a hobby.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well, I
and
read your bio and it was so
yeah,
intriguing to me. Yeah, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, you're fine. But it was like there would be like maybe 6 or 8 big ones across the country every year. Now it's like 8 every weekend. And it's like, oh my goodness. And what's happened is celebrities have realized, oh my gosh, there's a lot of money here.
Yeah.
Um, I've worked behind the scenes at some of these shows. I've seen the paychecks. It's truly unearthly, some of them, which again, more power to them.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Right. Right.
I'm not hating on it at all, but I'm
No,
like,
not at all.
I wouldn't turn that down. So yeah,
My
and
husband and I sat down and figured out, like, in just our line alone with Kevin Eastman, we paid for this and this and this, and people before us and people after us, and it was kind of like, holy cow, these guys are making money hand over fist, but awesome, like you said, awesome,
yes,
like
yep,
that.
good for him.
Yeah,
And it's so
so
funny. Like when earlier this year, I went to MegaCon in Orlando. Ron Howard, that was his first event. Mel Gibson, one of his first events.
wow,
Mel Gibson was not as talkative. He's kind of his own thing.
yeah,
But I had a friend who knew Ron's manager. So
uh-huh.
he set it up and he was like, I'm going to you're going to do a private signing for me. I got like 30 minutes, just me and Ron Howard. That was it. And it was
Wow.
incredible. Ron is such a sweet man. And we had some great gospel conversation, but also just along the lines of Andy Griffith, different
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah.
Which for me, The Grinch, where he directed and wrote that, I was like, I said,
Yeah.
and it was a good transition. I wrote a children's church skit years ago called How the Grinch Found the True Meaning of Christmas. I go
Oh,
through drive-throughs every Christmas, still to this day. I've done this for over 15 years. Go through the drive-through dressed as the Grinch and I'm in full character. Like I am mean, I'm nasty Grinch. Um, my Jim Carrey Grinch impression is not too bad. Like
yeah.
I did it for Ron, and he was like, not gonna lie, I've heard some bad ones. That was a good one." But I was telling him, I said, "Yeah," and I said I twist it. How the Grinch found the true meaning of Christmas. I give out gospel material through that. He said, "So what I'm hearing is you owe me residuals." I'm like, "Yes," but I asked him, I said, what got you interested in doing this after all these years?
Yeah.
He said there are two main factors. He said, his daughter Bryce Dallas Howard, he said she did a few and she was like, Dad, literally everyone's asking about you.
Oh.
Come out and do them. Spend the weekend with me. It'll be fun. We'll bring Uncle Clint along, help him
Oh.
out. And
Um,
he said, and then she showed me one of her paychecks. And he said, I'm not gonna lie. I thought if my daughter can get that, I can get more. I said,
mean,
and he said it's combining two things I love:
mhm.
meeting fans and making money. I said, hey, more
Right.
power to you. It just cracks me up. Some fans are like, why don't they just come for the fans? I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody's got to make money somehow.
Right, exactly. Airfare and I mean
There's
it
a lot.
yeah. Well, I wanted to take a moment to thank you, first of all, for talking to me.
Of course,
Because I am literally just a little nobody here in Alabama, so northern Alabama.
that
So
makes two of us, except East Tennessee here.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Yeah, no,
And
thank you for reaching out.
oh, well, I also wanted to thank you for what you're doing. Like this whole ministry of reaching out to Hollywood. It's unheard of. A lot of people think, and you've mentioned it before that the Hollywood actors and actresses and just that whole world is unreachable.
Right.
They don't need Jesus. They have everything they need, and all of those things. But as I was watching you, I began to realize those are probably the people that need him the most because they have everything else
Yes.
and they're empty still.
Yes.
You know,
That's it.
so just fascinating to me that would even that God would lay it on your heart to go big. You know.
And it's my wife and I, we've really been talking about it a lot lately because the ministry's this week is the 10-year anniversary of the
Oh
ministry, which is
wow,
crazy
that is
because
crazy.
it's been pretty stagnant. Not, and I don't mean that bad. I've had a consistent small following, which
Yeah,
I've never been in it for followers or anything like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
I want to, and it's still to this day. I just want to be right on path with, okay, I have the funds to do this. I'm
yes,
not putting my family out. I'm not
right,
going crazy, that kind of thing.
yeah,
And then this year it exploded to what it is right now, which again, it's still, I
yeah,
still consider it's a small ministry,
yeah,
but it's between, so the Bill Murray post went viral earlier
yeah.
this year. Um, and
Oh
then I know Instagram started pushing my content more because of that, because it's like, okay, there's potential here.
yeah,
And then,
the
and
odds.
it feels odd to say the
Yeah,
Aussie thing that took it to
took it
another
up.
level.
Hmm.
And with every great, like somebody like you who is so sweet and encouraging, there's people who it's like I got an email with the subject line this morning, you need a wake up call. And I was like,
Oh.
okay, that's going to be a fun one. Yep, that was a fun one. So much so I even had somebody who
I
I
even
thought
thought
was a
about that.
friend. Yeah, and I mean I had somebody who I even thought was a friend this week start commenting on stuff going, oh yeah, he's doing this just to get rich and famous. I'm like, but I'm a full-time youth pastor. If I want to be rich and
Nope.
famous, I'm in the
I worked in the
wrong.
ministry. I volunteered. I was a youth leader for years. You guys
Yes,
don't
you know as well as I do. I'm like,
get
there ain't
rich.
no money here. There's actually loss here.
Yeah.
Not that I'm like patting myself on the back, but I'm like, I don't care. I
Right.
just want to be able to take care of my family. But
Yes. No, I get it. And
it's a
just
weird world.
the fact that God is honoring your faithfulness by elevating it now is incredible. I mean,
Right.
I just it's something because I my husband and I have been married going on 5 years now,
Mhm.
and I have.
My wife and I, we just had our 5-year anniversary.
Did you really?
Yes.
Well, I was a single mom for 14 years. So I spent
Okay.
that 14 years praying for him. And he laughed
Oh,
at me.
that's
He's like,
awesome.
you pray for this? And I was like, I did, really, I did. But um it's so neat to see the faithfulness of God show up
Yes.
and the prayers answered after
Yes. Because
so
there's so many times we don't see it.
right, right. And you were saying at such a young age, at what, 13, I think it
Yep.
says, you
That's when
started
it,
to see?
that's so 13 was when the beginning stages started.
Yeah.
I became full time 10 years ago when I was 20. So for 7 years, it was basically I was trying to do what God called me to do on my terms.
Yes.
That doesn't work. It
So hard.
doesn't happen
Yeah.
that way.
Yep. Yep. I understand that completely. So what was your biggest fear in all of this? Like,
Biggest fear. So when I finally fully surrendered to God and was like, all right, I'm gonna do whatever it is you've asked me to do.
mhm.
I I was like, God, show me I'm not wasting my time.
Mm,
Show me that I there's a reason and there's a purpose for all of this.
yeah.
Um open it was the fear that there wouldn't be open doors and that it would just be falling on deaf ears.
Ah,
And I'm very thankful because again, one question I get a lot is, well, how often do you hear back from somebody? There are times that it is pretty like I've gotten several notes, emails, and stuff this year, and I'm like, that's incredible, that's
yeah.
great. Then last year, I'm like, I think I got one. which is fine. Again, you don't always know this side of heaven. And then I'll see somebody like I saw Brett Michaels Friday. I've witnessed to him several times, and he's like,
Yes.
"Oh my gosh, I remember you. How long's it been?" I'm like, "It's been 6 years."
Wow.
But so there's that. But the first year of ministry, God really very quickly gave me a very good feedback. Ironically, it ended up being our next president. It was Donald Trump.
Really?
I went to try to witness to him
Yeah.
before. I was like, I want to get to him before Secret Service is issued. I just felt in my heart, I was like, he's going to at least be the Republican candidate. And long story short, I knew some of the things he had said. He called himself a Christian. A lot of the things he said that made you a Christian. He's like, I've never done anything against God. I've done things against people, but not God. I'm like, I
Yeah.
understand why somebody could think that, but that's not scriptural.
Right.
So I really wanted to get to this man. And again, like you were saying, this is a very unreached people group. It's not just these are people that have everything and need Jesus. These are people that have an influence to
Right.
reach others. It's that trickle down
That's
effect.
the huge part of it. It's like these are people that have a tremendous amount of influence, but also feel like they're unreachable.
Yes.
And
And go ahead.
no, I was just going to say that's what makes it such a tremendous ministry, and that's
Right.
why I was so impressed when you were my husband was playing your videos. I was just like, I would love to talk to this guy, and my husband was like, okay. And my husband's kind of like you. He's a go getter. He makes stuff happen. I mean,
Well,
obviously.
you live by the mindset of the worst you're going to hear is no.
And I'm not used to I mean, I guess I can do that if I know that God is moving on me and saying, "Hey, I want you to do this." I'll go for it. But
Right.
no, after having kids and life and blah blah blah, I'm just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, and and that's I got his email and his Instagram. I reply quicker on Instagram
Yeah,
than I do emails.
yeah.
Like right now, I think I've got like 1,000 emails I've not replied to in the past week. So we'll get to those eventually. But the Donald Trump story, so he got issued Secret Service the day I went for him. I'm like, ah, wonderful. And I thought, how am I going to stand out in the crowd? How am I going to get him to
Yeah,
come over here?
yeah.
So for a lack of a better term, I stroked his ego. I wrote a sign. It said, "Mr. President, stop, please." And I jokingly tell people I'm the first person to call him
Oh,
Mr.
and Mr.
President.
President.
He got off the plane. It was like a blonde tornado. I was at the private airport, and I'm yelling at him, and he points to my sign, and he goes, "You're fantastic." And I yell, "Will you please come over here?" And he shrugged his shoulders and goes, "Okay." Walks right over. And he said, "Your sign didn't specify. What do you want? Autograph photo? What do you want?" And I said, "Well, I'd love both. But most importantly, I have a gift I want to give you." Gifts. Oh, I love gifts. Gimme, gimme, gimme. And he looked at it. He was so kind and gracious. He said, "Here, take a picture of me holding the beautiful Bible. Show everybody."
Oh.
And I saw him give it to a Secret Service guy, and he said, "That better be on the plane when I get back." Well, a week later, I go
Hmm.
to my mailbox and there is a giant manila envelope from Trump Towers. And I'm like,
Oh,
what? And again, I'm
right.
like, I don't know how this is going to go. It was a very kind letter. He was thanking me for the letter, and he was mentioning, he said, "You made some good points." Because again, I was talking about sin and how we all have to ask forgiveness because if we have broken God's commandments, we aren't right with him. We're not righteous. There's none righteous but Christ.
Right.
And so he just acknowledged that I'd made some good points. He thanked me for coming to meet him, and it was signed. And again, I guess I am cynical sometimes. I'm like, okay, is this auto pinned?
Yeah.
Because, and you could tell it was live ink signed. And I was like, again, this was within the first couple months of ministry because the ministry began the
Wow.
very end of July. And then this was in October. So I was
Okay.
like, all right. Yeah. And that was the first big one where I'm like, all right, God,
Okay. This is a yes.
we'll keep going.
Yeah.
I was like, for now. And then here we are a year later.
So, given that, what was your like? What finally launched it to a ministry status? Like, what was your biggest God moment? Where was the moment that you were like? I know that you said you surrendered it to God, and
Yes.
you're like, okay, I'll do whatever you ask me to do. But I guess what initially launched it, and
Hmm.
what was your biggest God moment?
So I would say, um,
Quick
so I
moment.
got saved when
Very
I
quick
was,
moment.
what's that?
My dogs just decided that they wanted to announce that a bug
They
had,
were there.
yeah, yeah,
I get it.
a bug had landed on the window, and they needed to announce that. So sorry.
That's fine. And I was going to say, just while we had that pause, I was just going to mention I have to get off probably about 6:15, 6:20. I don't know. I hope that's enough time for you.
Yeah.
What time is it
Oh,
right now?
it's I'm in Central Time. I just need about 15 more minutes, and that's good. Or
Okay, yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, so it's like I logged on, it was 5:30 my time. And
oh,
normally I'm not in a rush, but the way today's work, there's another I think it was CBN that was like, "Hey, can you do 6:30?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can do
that's
that."
awesome. Oh, that's awesome.
Again, I'm
Thank
just
you.
so thankful for the
Yeah,
opportunity.
yeah.
And again, I appreciate that you wanted to take the time to talk to me as
Oh,
well. And I told my wife, I said, I don't want her to feel like I'm rushing her. That's why I was like, I want to make sure I give you
yeah,
enough.
yeah. No, I appreciate that.
So I guess 5:15 my time is five.
Yeah,
6:15 my time is 5:15 your time.
yeah.
Anyway,
Perfect.
uh, so back to the God moment.
Good
So
time.
I
Mhm.
got saved when I was 8 years old. My mom was who had me in church. My dad was raised Jehovah's Witness. He then became agnostic. He was not involved in faith, church, or anything for most of my childhood. He got saved when I was 13.
Oh, wow.
Um, I still remember the day. We were at McDonald's. It was on it was the weekend of New Year's Eve, and this missionary friend, family of ours, who has been involved in our life, was really pouring into my dad. He surrendered there at McDonald's, and I
Um,
still tell him that he must have been loving it. I'm terribly stupid.
well, that
My
must have
if
been a pretty
any of
cool
my
moment.
youth students are watching this, they're just bashing their heads on the
Yeah,
table
they're
like
like,
we
oh,
can't stand him.
don't embarrass us.
Yeah, no, they do that every week. But so from 13, when I went to this first Comic Con, that I met Margot Kidder. I heard an interview where she was an atheist.
Yeah,
That's what gave me, I guess you could say, a spiritual awakening
yeah,
in the sense of that's when the veil was torn from my eyes of, oh, she's a soul just like you, just like me. She's on her
yeah,
way to heaven or hell. She needs
yeah.
Jesus. Um, but I kept going to these events, like these Comic Cons. I went to a few concerts and I was at a backstage door, and I would loosely research what somebody would believe,
Mhm.
just so I was mentally prepared. Okay, what am I getting into? Well, I was just doing what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a drummer more than anything. I was pursuing that. I felt called to preach and evangelize at a very early age. I fought that like cats and dogs. You can read the story of Jacob in the Bible. It's not good to wrestle with God.
Yeah, yeah.
It's you're not going to win. Well, in 2015, I
Mhm.
had an opportunity. James Taylor was doing some concerts, and um, a friend of mine asked me, "Are you going to go try to witness to him?" And I was like, "No." Nah. And what it was is nothing against James.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to take a lot of work, and I just didn't care that much.
Uh,
And he challenged me. He was like, "Well, maybe just look and see what he believes." I'm like, "Okay." And Rolling Stone interview from 20. I'm sorry, not 20, from 1991. He said, both of my parents were atheist. I'm agnostic, but I'm open to listen if somebody will take the time to show me. Because he was just talking about mentioning
yeah,
Jesus in his
yeah,
songs. And then I just felt convicted. I'm like, if somebody down the road said that, we would be just speeding away. But we don't chase these people because we see them as unreachable. We see them as hopeless. We see them as too far gone. So I went, it took 3 days. Long story short, missed him one time, another time, I don't know how he got out of the venue. But then the third time that week, I went to a different city, was able to talk with him. We had about a 30-minute conversation. He was very
wow,
kind and gracious. And he mentioned to me, he said, that interview was 24 years ago. You're the first person to intentionally come to me and tell me something
wow.
spiritually. And I was like, I know I'm not the first Christian to cross paths with James in
Yes,
24 years.
right,
And that's nothing against other Christians. We've all let people walk by us that it's
right.
like
I
that
mean,
the Holy Spirit was
yeah,
calling us to talk to, and we did
yeah,
nothing about it.
we did.
So, but then I just felt God convicting my heart, like, okay, well, you have this platform. You have been gifted to know how to get to some of these people,
Right.
not just the Comic Cons, but it's like, all right, they're going to be here, or they're going to do this, and it's like,
Yeah.
All right, Lord, whatever you want me to do. If you want me to do this, I will do this. But you, like I was saying,
Mhm.
please show me I'm not wasting my time. And I thank God for honoring that.
Yeah.
Again, and there may be somebody watching this going, "Well, I asked God to show me that, and I've been doing something for 5 years." If God's calling you to do it, just trust Him.
Yeah.
But
At
I
some point you have to
really
step
do.
out. You have to it's I think a lot of people mistake the fact that when God's calling me to do it, he's going to do it for me. No, you have to make that first initial step and you have to act towards that. You have to move towards that and he'll move towards you.
Yeah.
So,
It's like I use this analogy a lot in my youth group. None of us are made by mistake. None of us are, you know, wasted space, so to
yeah,
speak.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
There is a huge car factory here in our town, and there's a lot of people in our church that work there. And I'll ask them in front of the kids, I'm like, so you make this part. Do you just throw a bunch of pieces of metal together and hope that it does something? No, you created it and
Ooh,
designed it for a purpose.
that's a
And
great analogy.
you're gonna put it in the car, but
Yeah.
it has to do its job. Otherwise, it's just been a waste. And I feel like so many of us as Christians, that's what we do. God puts us where we're supposed to be at in life, but we choose to go, you know what? Nah, I'm good.
Yeah. My husband is keeping me on track time wise.
Oh no, you're good. You're good.
I'm a talker. I'm a big talker, if you couldn't
Me
tell.
too.
But I had several questions written out. You know, your biggest God moment, your biggest fear, um, biggest piece of advice, um, your biggest ministry need, those kinds of things. But also, how did Ozzy blow up so much? Like, what was like? How did that? Talk about that a little bit.
So I usually don't post throwbacks. I might start doing that some because even this year, people have been messaging me saying, I really hope you're able to witness the Post Malone. And I saw a post back in March, but again, you just got to scroll back a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's good to get people praying again. I've still got people from a trip in Los Angeles last month that I've still not posted. You'll probably see me post one of those tonight.
Good, good.
So Ozzy, I just felt it on my heart. Hey, he just did his final farewell concert in
Yes.
Birmingham, and I'm emphasizing Birmingham because I accidentally said London in the video, and I got tore to shreds. I meant to say the UK, but man, I got lit up. But I was like, maybe that helped the algorithm. I don't know. All the fury of all the mad English people. I was like, I'm a stupid American. I don't know. I'm sorry. Go back to your
Negative
go
attention can sometimes, it's still attention sometimes.
yeah, I was like, go back to your tea, it's all good. But so I made that video just to be like, all right, let's pray for Ozzy. This was a very encouraging,
Yeah.
well-received story. I know it shocks a lot of people that the Prince of Darkness would be so open to the Bible. I got an email this morning, someone saying, I would have never thought Ozzy would even want to touch a Bible, let alone want to read it. So I was like, this could be very encouraging to Christians to share their
Yeah.
faith. It gets people praying for Ozzy because he's on everybody's mind right now,
Yes.
and it blew up a couple weeks ago. And before Ozzy's death, it had reached, I think it was almost 300,000 accounts. And I was like, for my little page, I was like, well, that's great. That's a lot of people praying.
Yeah.
But then Ozzy passes. And I'm like, I was sitting here actually, and I just, my wife and I cried several times that day because he was just somebody we really felt burdened on our heart. He was a sweet man.
Yeah.
And then automatically that started being shared again. People being like, "Oh my goodness, this was God wanting people to be praying for him, literally his last days here on this earth."
Oh,
And again, I think it was just so encouraging to people that, oh, no one's too far gone. I think that's
right.
part of why it blew up. Also just God timing. And even there's a lot of news articles that were like, oh, this guy shared it with him 2 weeks before his death. No, I say in the video, it's 2023. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a reminder for us to not wait until it's too late,
Right.
to seize any opportunity we have to share the gospel, and to be praying for that family during this very, very hard time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what was your big, what do you feel like the Aussie was kind of your biggest God moment where it's like, in personally for you, what in this ministry time have you felt like is your biggest
So
God moment?
Jerry Lee Lewis is probably the biggest God moment. So God was working behind the scenes with that decades before I was born. My papa was in the Korean War. He served with Jerry's best friend.
Wow.
My papa jokingly told Jerry, "Hey, if you know Jerry, get me free tickets." Well, that friend didn't just get him free tickets, brought Jerry to my papa's house. I have Polaroid pictures of my papa, my nana, my mom with Jerry in their house playing their piano. Well, fast forward to 2015, he does an interview where he says, "I wake up every night worried I'm going to wake up in hell." That was The Guardian.
Oh,
And again, the Christian resume he would have was impressive. He went to Bible college. He grew up in church. His cousin was one of the most prolific televangelists of all time, for the good or the bad, however you want to see that. And it's like, here's somebody who's acknowledging he's scared because he knows that's not good enough. Because you can't count and rely on your salvation because of somebody else.
right.
So I remember being like, I really hope I get an opportunity to talk to Jerry. He's incredibly curmudgeon. I love him. He's a sweet guy. Some of the closest friends in my life are curmudgeon. I'm not saying that in a bad way, but you got to have a moment to break them down. And a lot of times with celebrities, you just don't have time to make that wall come down.
Right.
So I have a friend. He's worked with paparazzi before. He told me, he's like, "Hey, I know when he's flying out after the show, go to the airport. That will be a calmer situation." I was like, "All right, that's not creepy at all, but all right." Again, it's celebrity's a different world. The people
Yeah.
don't think anything of it. If I'm going to the airport here in a couple weeks to Chicago and someone showed up, "Hi, Mr. Novak," I'd be like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, buddy, whoa."
Yeah.
But again, they expect it. Literally, I've heard some say, "Well, I was wondering if anybody was going to be here." That's just the world they
Wow.
live in. So I'm waiting there, and it ended up being Jerry's last concert. That was it. Um,
Wow.
but I did have to break him down a little bit. He was a little standoffish, and I told him my papa's name, Roy Reynolds, and he goes,
Yeah.
"How do you know that name?" I said, "That's my papa," and he was like, "Really?" And I was like, "Here's the Polaroid. Here's me with my papa." He's like, "Well, why didn't you bring him?" I said, "His health isn't good enough. I tried to get him to come," and he was like, "Oh, that makes me sad." And he asked how my grandmother was doing. But
Yeah.
again, God moment, him
That
lowering the
that
walls
connection back
because of
then.
that connection.
Yeah.
Um, had a full blown gospel conversation with him. He acknowledged right there in front of me that he's still worried about waking up in hell. I thought we were going to have a moment right there to accept Christ. And he said, "I want to keep talking to you. I'm afraid I'm going to miss my flight," which here's the thing. His flight was at like 10:45 and it was like 10:15. I'm like, "Buddy, you need to run." Which again, in
Wow.
my mind, I'm like, "Yeah, I missed the flight. It won't be the end of
Yeah.
the
Right.
world." But I
Right.
told him, I said, "My contact info is in the back of all this material. Please get a hold of me if you have any questions, et cetera, et cetera." A week later, get a letter in the mail from Jerry Lee Lewis. And it was just a simple note. It was dated 2 days after I met him. It said, "Do not worry, Jesus is my personal savior." And he went on to post on Facebook that he was getting ready to make a gospel record. He wanted to tell everybody some new changes that had happened in his life. Then he ended up having a stroke, went into assisted living, and that's where he lived until he passed away. He did get a few songs recorded.
Yeah.
But again, it's the God moments. It was just the divine intervention before I was even born.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that to me, I'm just like, I'm always somebody who goes back to the root of everything. Why did things happen the way they did?
Yeah.
Why are things in the
That's
world the
me
way
too.
they
I'm a big
are?
why person.
Yes, I'm like, I'm very much a believer of the trickle down domino effect, whatever you want to call it. And I was like, man, that was happening in the late 50s and I wasn't even born. That's great.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So, just as a to kind of wrap this all up, because I want to be respectful of your
Oh
time.
no, you're
um,
good.
What is two things? The biggest piece of advice you'd give somebody, and what is your like the ministry's personal need? Like, what do you want us to? How do you want people to help you spread the gospel? And
Gotcha.
do you take like obviously you take requests? Like, would you try to reach out to so and so, or like you know, we are big fans of like the 90 Day Fiance people and Mama June and all of that. So
Mama June.
like if anybody needs Jesus,
Hey,
cool.
listen, I would love to talk to JoJo Siwa. Just along the reality TV star lines,
Yes,
she is such a sad little soul right
my heart
now.
hurts for
Because you
her.
can tell, you
Yeah,
can really tell that the media is trying to make her be whatever agenda,
yeah,
and she's exposed it a little bit. So I'm like, okay, that's a plus. So biggest piece of advice I would have. Don't wait until you read someone's obituary to find out where they stand spiritually.
Come on.
I know a lot of people, and it happens with me a lot with the celebrity ministry. Ozzy was another level because that video had just been posted. Everybody knew I'd met Ozzy. But
Yeah.
a lot of times when a celebrity passes away, did you meet such and such? What was their statement of faith? And I'll tell them. But the thing that makes me sad is when someone says, I'm praying for them right now. I'm like, it's too late. The time to pray was last week. The time to pray was yesterday. Now it's
Now
over.
you pray for their family.
Yes, and
Yeah.
that's why you'll always see me make the post. Be praying for their family and pray that this, if somebody in their family isn't saved, this will bring them to Christ.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, the entire goal of this ministry is to one, bring people to Christ, and two, to encourage Christians to share the gospel.
Yeah.
And I know so many people who have lost loved ones, and they are like, telling me at a funeral or somebody's on their deathbed, and they're like, I should have shared the gospel with them before. I'm like, well, first of all, now if they're still breathing, there's still a chance.
Yeah.
Anybody who says, "Oh, deathbed confessions never happened," they've obviously not read about the thief on the cross.
Yeah.
I will say this: I'm more skeptical of bedside confessions than I am a lot of other conversions. I'm not
Yeah.
discrediting that, but I'm not saying it's impossible.
Right.
And of course, we know nothing's impossible with God. God knows the heart.
Yeah.
But my advice would be seize the moment. There are many times that in my ministry I haven't seized the moment with different things, and it still haunts me. It still is something I live with regret. We just have to hold ourselves accountable to do what God's called us to do immediately without excuse.
Yeah. I like that.
So that, and again, as far as advice goes, a lot I'll ask. I just did a camp breakout session all day Saturday, and it was on gospel encouragement.
Mhm.
And I asked the kids, what is the number one reason people don't share the gospel? And it was a tie between I don't want to be awkward, which I'm like, you're teenagers, you're awkward. I'm awkward. Number two, I don't want people to get mad at me. Well, ultimately, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is what we take to heaven with us. We can't take material things, but we can try to bring people with us.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, isn't it more important to know that you did everything you could to stand in between your friend, your family member, whoever that is, and hell? They have the free will to walk around you, but we have to do everything we can. And even if they're like, man, they're weird or man, they're obnoxious, at the end of the day, they're going to be thankful for that moment.
Right. Right.
I've got a lot of testimonies I could share about that. We don't have time for.
Yeah.
As far as ministry needs, so on my website there is an option to sponsor Bibles. Every celebrity now, for the most part, gets a personalized Bible with
Mhm.
their name on it. And that's something we've felt led to do for a long time. It just wasn't financially um, an
Feasible.
option,
Yeah.
right? And then my wife had the idea to give people an option to sponsor it. And since we started doing that a year ago, that has been amazing. That's gotten a lot of people involved in the ministry. All
Awesome.
Bibles are $35. It's a reasonable
Yeah.
fee, and it's not a little cheap Dollar Tree Bible. It's one of these nice large
Great.
print Bibles.
Yeah.
Very well made. Sometimes it's a study Bible. It just depends on the person, their beliefs, what I think they'll look at.
Right.
Um, Other ways people can get behind the ministry on the same join the mission page on our website, celebrityevangelist.org. You can, if I'm going to a Comic Con, everybody, as you know, there is a price to pay to get to these people.
Yes.
And I've seen people try to walk up and just talk without paying. That's always awkward.
Yeah.
They're there to make money, and I feel like that's
Right.
rude
And you
and
need to honor that.
inconsiderate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there was getting again, just like the Bibles, I'm like, there's only, we only have so much money, and you know as well as I do how expensive these things are.
Yes.
And so my wife, again, she's a genius, I'm not, but she said, how about you give people the opportunity to sponsor somebody? So like here in a couple weeks, I'm going to Fan Expo Chicago,
Yeah.
and I'm putting different people on the website, and it's like, here's their fee. I will text you, email you, message you on social media, whatever way is most convenient for the person, and be like, hey, I'm in line for such and such. Here, be praying. I'll let you know immediately how it goes.
Awesome.
When I get out of line, I try to do it immediately. If I can't do it immediately, I do it by the end of the day. All right, here's how it goes. Like I always let you know right before,
Yeah.
but afterwards it might get a little chaotic because
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, got to run to such and such's
Yeah.
line.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'll immediately update before anything's on social media, even some things I don't put on social media. And the autograph is that person's. So
Oh,
I just had somebody last month at a convention. They were like, "Hey, can you get this? I'm doing this. Join the mission. Can it be personalized to this person as a birthday present?" I'm like, "Absolutely." And so they're getting something back, and we're able to just break completely even and
right.
go and reach a lot more people
Your
through
wife
the
is
ministry.
brilliant.
Yes, she is. I still don't know how I landed her.
Well, I am so grateful that you took the time to talk to me, and I'm wonderfully excited about where God is leading your ministry. And right now, I'm feeling very awkward, like I can't get my words out. So
No, that's me every day. You're fine.
yeah, yeah, I'm the queen of awkward, so we'll just go with that. But
I'm a youth pastor. That's why I got hired.
maybe that's why I can relate.
Yes.
But I am definitely going to be praying for your ministry. I'm going to be sharing it. I'm going to be doing all I can to help it move forward
Thank
and
you.
staying in touch for sure. Maybe we can do this again.
Hey, that's what I was going to say. We'll do it again. I'll try to do it where there's no time limit
Yeah,
and
yeah,
maybe bump into you and your husband at one of these shows. I think, is that
yeah.
Huntsville, Alabama show?
That is the Huntsville
I've
one.
not been to that show, but I recognize the
It was
logo.
so good. I That was the first Comic Con I've ever been to, and I
I've
had
heard that it's
blast.
run very well.
Oh my
I-
gosh,
I've been to some dumpster fire shows, but I've always heard good things about that
yeah.
show. So
Well, hopefully
who
we'll see you
knows?
there next
Absolutely,
year.
yeah. And message me anytime. And if you're like, hey, let's just film a little something, I'm always willing to do everything I can to work it out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I so appreciate it, Dylan.
You are so very welcome. I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
All right. Thank you.
No
Bye.
problem. Bye bye.